If you get pain when you strength train, there are 3 steps you can follow to easily and quickly change this. That's exactly what we want to teach you on this week's episode of the Exercises Health Podcast. We're going to cue our introduction and dive right into this conversation. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Exercises Health Podcast, brought to you by Muscle Activation Schaumburg. We're your hosts, Charlie
and Julie.
Today, we're discussing this idea of what do you do if you're getting pain when you're strength training? You're lifting weights and you're feeling some kind of weird pain in your elbow or in your muscle, like your biceps. Some area of your body just isn't feeling well while you're doing your strength training exercises. Does it mean you call it quits, or are there some things that you can do? We actually have a very simple framework that anybody can follow to help change this for you, and that's what we want to share with you today. We want to let you know that if you'd like our guidance on taking action on this, that's exactly what we can help you with at our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg, where we specialize in muscle activation techniques. So all you need to do to see our availability and get on our schedule is go to our website, www.matschaumburg.com. Click the big green button that says Get Started, and you can schedule yourself for your initial MAT consultation and assessment. All right, so this framework, like I said, it has 3 steps, and we want to share them with you in order. So while you're doing your workout, if you find that, this exercise is kind of bugging me, instead of just calling it quits and stopping it altogether, stopping your workout or stopping the exercise or what have you, you can say, okay, no, I'm going to start with step 1, and then if needed, I'll move to step 2, and then if needed, I'll move to step 3. But because what we found is the vast majority of the time when we follow this framework, the aches, the pains, the things that people feel while they're strength training go way down to the point where it doesn't hurt at all. It doesn't mean that the exercise doesn't feel fatiguing or you don't feel your muscles working, but that sensation of pain, whether it's a dull ache or whether it's a sharp pain, that can be greatly reduced when you follow this 3-step framework.
That's right. And it's so important that you use this 3-step framework rather than just throwing out an exercise, because it is incredibly important for each and every motion of your body to be regularly challenged and regularly trained. And the best way to keep not only your body really healthy, your muscles healthy, your joints healthy, but to keep away discomfort and pain, like in overall sense and in the bigger picture rather than just in the now, is to actually train every motion that your body has. So we want to really encourage you, try to break down your workouts when you're having discomforts, because it is one of the top reasons why people don't do exercises, but we know that we need to include all these exercises. And it really just comes down to the how. Like, how am I doing my bicep curls? How am I doing my, hamstring curls? How am I doing my squats? So of course, follow the 4 Exercise for Life principles that we've talked about in many other episodes, but this episode specifically, this checklist specifically is for you if you're experiencing some type of pain or discomfort that's not muscle fatigue or, some burning in your muscles because they're getting tired. That's okay. But you know that difference, right? Where it feels like something just feels off. This is the step. This is the framework. This is the checklist that we want you to go through, starting with step 1, which is change your range of motion.
Exactly. So step number 1, like you were saying, Julie, is to change your range of motion. So what this looks like is, let's say you're doing a leg extension exercise, and you're extending your knees, you're straightening your legs, and halfway up, you find that, oh, wow, like my knees are really bugging me, okay? Change the amount of motion that you're using to stay within the range or the area of the exercise where it doesn't bother you. Okay, it's really that simple. But kind of asking yourself the question of like, all right, is it just a specific point where this pain is? Or maybe it's a part of the motion, like an entire part of the motion. For example, sometimes I'll have clients where, like straightening their legs feels okay, but then lowering the weight and controlling that knee bend on a leg extension, that's when the pain occurs. So we need to change the motion that they're using, right? So we might all right, you can lift it and then I'll help you lower it, kind of easing off the load as they're lowering it down to kind of decrease that pain. Or we might say, hey, it's really painful for you if you try to extend all the way up. So we're not going to go to that place where it's painful for you. We're going to stop short of that, and we're just going to work in the amount of motion that is symptom-free.
Now, this one's so important because I think at some point in all of our inauguration into fitness, we are told that, hey, you always need to be using full range of motion, always, all the time, and never change it. And if you don't use range of motion, you're going to become tight, restricted, your knee's going to get messed up, you're going to have tight hands, all the things, right? But here's the thing, I was actually just having this conversation with a client this morning, is that it's our job as the owner of our body that is putting it through this stressful thing called exercise in hopes to get positive change, that we respect all the signals that our body's giving to you or giving to us. So we need to remember that it's use your full symptom-free, pain-free, stretch-free range of motion, right? So we are using your full range of motion that your body is giving you, but we're not smashing it into any end range or pushing beyond symptoms. We want you using your full range of motion, but never violate when you start getting symptoms, because symptoms are just a signal, and it's really the only way your body can communicate to you. Maybe it's saying, on the knee extension, hey, this top inch, not good, but everything else, totally fine. Great. So keep challenging, keep strengthening the entire range minus that top inch. And more often than not, when you come back for set 2 or 3 or after your warm-up set, whatever it is, you're going to notice that, hey, that top inch actually feels much better. And now my body's allowing me to use it, right? But if it doesn't give you that top inch, maybe the whole time you're exercising, that top inch stays symptomatic, which, by the way, you can test it every once in a while. We just don't recommend that you keep, doing reps and reps and reps into a range that's painful. Then great. It's off limits for the day. We don't know exactly what's going on in your knee, but it's a good reason that your body's giving you that signal. So we are saying, hey, change your range of motion, usually lessen your range of motion, but oftentimes it's not as much as what people think. A lot of times when people hear this, they think, oh, so I should just do half range? Well, maybe, but a lot of times it's like you're shaving off 1 degree of motion at the top or 1 degree of motion at the bottom, or maybe the very middle hurts. So, you're doing a bottom range, and then you switch to the settings and you do a top range. Great. And that's also a really great way to start strengthening into that range that does bother you, that you're not directly strengthening that day. But always make sure that you're listening to these signals and change your range of motion to respect the communication that your joints and muscles are sending to you.
Yeah, Julie, that's a really big point. The idea that this can change very quickly, and it often does change very quickly. I mean, just respect what your body is telling you and stay within the areas of motion that are symptom-free. Your body's going to give you more motion that is symptom-free. And even if you have structural changes like arthritis, or there's a meniscus issue, or something's going on with the labrum, or whatever it is, right? Oftentimes, what we see, more times than not, I should say, is the amount of motion will continue to increase, will continue to open up without symptom, despite there being these structural abnormalities or this structural degradation. So be open to exploring that within your own workout of like, okay, for this set right here, this is what my body is telling me is good. But the next time I go, I'm going to explore, see, okay, can I get to that top range? Yeah, I can. All right, good. Can I go a little bit farther than I was last time? Yeah, I can. All right, cool. So just keep being open to, again, exploring that throughout the course of your workout.
Once you've done step 1, which is change your range, and especially listening to all those symptoms that are coming up, you're probably going to notice a big increase in change in how things are feeling. The second step that we want you to take is to change your focus. So think about, like, what are you thinking when you do an exercise? So I was actually just working with this on a client with bicep curls. I was like, what are you thinking about? He's like, lifting the weights up and down, obviously, because the weights literally go from down to up, right? Going up and down. And I said, okay, great. Like, good first start. But let's change it to something that we want happening inside your body. So instead of thinking about what the dumbbells are doing, the thing we're trying to change is not the dumbbells. The thing we're trying to change is like your muscles and your joints. And so instead, I redirected his mind and his focus to, hey, when you do this, I want you to think about squeezing your bicep as much as possible. I don't care what happens to the dumbbells. They go up, great. They don't, great. But think about squeezing your biceps. And at the top, I want you to think about a really big bend in your elbow. So the focus went from what is the external doing, aka the dumbbells, to what is my inside doing, meaning my muscles and my joints. So try this, and it's shocking how crazy different this will feel. So change your focus to the internal parts of the exercise versus thinking about always the external parts of the exercise.
Yeah, even if you don't have pain and you make this shift, it will completely transform the experience that you have while you're doing the exercise, meaning how the exercise actually feels for your body. But if you do have symptoms, it's a total game changer in terms of like what your body is experiencing as far as symptoms and everything else while you're doing the exercise. Just taking your mind and really trying to make that mind-muscle connection with the muscles that you're working during each exercise. Can you make a direct connection with them? Can you feel those muscles squeeze? We like to say make the exercise muscle-centric, meaning the muscles become the focus of the exercise. And if you can do that, not only does that help you to accomplish step number 2, but it also can help you accomplish step number 1 even easier, which is staying within the amount of motion that feels good for your body, because you are no longer focused on trying to achieve a certain amount of motion. Instead, you are just focused on staying within the amount of motion that feels good for your body, because you're focused on squeezing your muscles. So that's step number 2. If for whatever reason, step number 1 doesn't do the trick, step number 2 doesn't do the trick, step number 3 can have a big impact as well. And that is to change your speed. Specifically, more times than not, you're going to want to move slower than what you're currently moving. And the reason why this is so important is because when you move fast, it's really easy for your body to compensate through other areas, to make these subtle shifts through different areas of your body, to start to recruit other groups of muscles to help you, what looks outside looking in, to perform the lift, all right? But remember, we're trying to keep everything within our body. We're trying to keep everything very muscle-centric, and moving slowly will help you to control your motion better, to stay within your symptom-free range of motion, the area of motion that feels better for your body, and less likely to create these other shifts through other areas of your body.
That's right. Moving slower is literally one of the best ways, I think, to like digest, like, oh, I can do that. I went, it took me 3 seconds. Now I'll make sure it takes me 5 seconds, right? That's an easy way to like visualize things. But it's also like the best way to make sure the muscles are being the target of what's happening, right? Like a lot of times when my clients are moving, especially when they're getting tired, they start speeding things up. Why? Because it makes it easier. But it also puts a lot more work on like the momentum of the weight versus the muscles. And I often say, hey, remember what we're here to do. Challenge and change your muscles. So give them an opportunity to be challenged and changed. And so that means give them time under this weight, right? If you're just launching your weights, your muscles barely have time to like get a chance to work. And a lot of times it also works against you because it's like less muscle work, but plus more of that wear and tear side of everything. So if you just slow down, you're going to notice a huge increase in muscle work. And sometimes, yeah, that's a little uncomfortable if you feel uncomfortable with some muscle work, but hey, that's what we're here in the gym to do. So drop your weight a little bit if you have to, and just let those muscles work. You're going to notice that, yes, a lot of the aches and pains will start going away because you're actually going to be choosing better like weights for yourself, because you're like, hey, this is the weight I need to challenge my muscles versus this is the weight I can use to launch, up and down, or launch and catch and whatever. So slow it down. You're going to notice a really big change in not only your muscle work, but how things are feeling, and less of that negative side effects of like pain, tightness, funkiness when you're exercising.
Exactly. So if you're noticing any symptoms from a pain perspective when you're lifting weights, this is the 3-step framework that we follow with ourselves, with our clients, and we recommend you follow as well to help to troubleshoot this. Number 1 is change the amount of motion that you're using. Number 2 is to focus on squeezing your muscles. Keep the exercise muscle-centric, meaning you are locked into what's going on with your muscles. That's where your focus is. And number 3, change your speed, specifically start to slow way down. You do those 3 steps, you do them in order. If step number 1 doesn't work, then you go to step 2. If step 2 doesn't work, then you go to step 3. Follow that order, and more times than not, you will see a significant change in how your body feels symptom-wise and how your body experiences the exercises that you do. Because remember, there's a significant difference between feeling your muscles squeeze, feeling your muscles work, feeling like you're being challenged by the exercise, and feeling pain while you're doing the exercise. And like Julie's been saying, we're here to do the former. We want to make sure that our muscles are squeezing, our body's being worked, we're feeling our body fatiguing, everything like that in a really positive way. We don't want to experience the latter, where we're experiencing pain, we're feeling like we're digging ourselves deeper and deeper into a hole that we're going to take longer and longer to recover from. That's not what we're wanting to do, okay? So the 3 steps should help you increase the likelihood that you're experiencing the former and decrease the likelihood that you're experiencing the latter. Truth be told, if these 3 steps are not working for you, it may be a sign that there is greater muscle inhibition going on throughout your system, and that's exactly what we can help you with muscle activation techniques. Try as you might to connect with your muscles and feel them squeeze. If it's just not happening, there may be a disconnect going on between how your brain and muscles are communicating. That's what we can help you with. If you feel like, oh, I'm really trying to change my focus into my, to make sure that I'm focusing on my muscles, or I'm trying to slow down, but my motion feels all discoordinated, or I'm trying to use a specific amount of motion, but every time I get to this place, like it just doesn't feel great. Even when in all I'm doing is using less and less and less motion, that may be a sign that there's kind of rampant muscle inhibition going on throughout your system. Again, there's just your brain and your muscles are not communicating the way that they are supposed to. And that's exactly what we can help you troubleshoot and address with muscle activation techniques, which is exactly what we specialize in at our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg. So if you would like our help and guidance, troubleshooting these, things that you're experiencing, or, implementing these 3 steps, all you have to do to see our availability and get our schedule is go to our website, www.matschaumburg.com. There's a big green button that you can click that says Get Started. You can schedule yourself for your initial MAT consultation and assessment. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. We always appreciate your eyes on YouTube, your ears on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you wouldn't mind sharing this episode with somebody that is trying to get into strength training, trying to stay consistent with their strength training, but feels these pains, these aches when they're doing it that aren't related to, their muscles working, but are just related to like aches and pains that we know, we don't want to be experiencing that. Share this episode with them so they can learn this 3-step framework to follow to help troubleshoot that. Well, again, thank you so much. We always appreciate your time and attention. We are wishing you a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.
This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlie Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.